What if I told you one streamer jumped over speeding cars, got through a table, lit fireworks in his room, and somehow became one of the most loved creators on earth? This isn't clickbait. This is IShowSpeed, a viral machine and the most unpredictable force the internet has ever seen. Today we're counting down 10 moments so insane you won't believe they actually happened. And no, you haven't seen them all. Let's start with the one where he almost burned down his house. Live. The wild firework fiasco. It's one thing to go viral for a crazy gameplay moment or a hilarious reaction, but it's a whole different story when the thing that sends you into internet history is almost burning your house down. On July 4th, 2022, IShowSpeed didn't just want to celebrate Independence Day, he wanted to make it explode. And so, in true Speed fashion, he went live, cranked the energy to 100, and pulled out what might be the most questionable prop ever brought onto a stream. A Pikachu-themed firework, not in the backyard, not on the driveway, but inside his actual streaming room. He positioned it like it was a centerpiece in a celebration. Chat was hyped, the room was dark, the countdown began. And then, boom! Sparks, flames, and pure chaos erupted in every direction. The firework lit up the room like a lightning strike, crackling and spewing fire right next to his gaming setup. Speed freaked out, knocking things over as the room filled with smoke. And behind it all, his chat was moving at lightning speed, flooding the stream with LMAO, bro, you're dead, and call 911. But this wasn't just a funny clip, it was dangerous. The intensity was so real that Speed ended up calling the fire department on stream, just in case the room was going to go up in flames. Sirens were heard in the distance, and the clip ended with Speed coughing through the smoke, wide-eyed and stunned as reality set in. That moment alone has racked up millions of views, and to this day, fans still say, remember when Speed almost blew up his house? It's not just a meme, it's a turning point. It showed the internet exactly what they could expect from Speed. Unpredictability, mayhem, and content you literally can't take your eyes off of. And the craziest part, that was just the beginning. WWE mayhem at Wrestlemania. If there's one thing IShowSpeed understands better than most, it's that going viral isn't just about gaming anymore. It's about moments. Big, loud, unforgettable moments. And in April 2024, he delivered one of his craziest yet on a stage that nobody saw coming. WrestleMania 40. Yes, the biggest event in professional wrestling. While millions were tuned in expecting high-flying moves and dramatic finishes, what they got instead was a chaotic collision between WWE and the internet's most unpredictable streamer, who showed up dressed as a Blue Prime bottle. Let's be clear, Speed wasn't just attending, he was in it. As WWE superstar Logan Paul made his entrance, Speed suddenly appeared out of nowhere, decked out in a full-body Prime costume, arms flailing, yelling in classic Speed fashion. But it wasn't just a cameo. He jumped the barricade, climbed up on the apron, and tried to confront Randy Orton. Yes, Randy freaking Orton. And anyone who knows WWE knows if you poke the Viper, you better be ready for what comes next. Speed wasn't. With one swift motion, Orton kicked Speed right in the gut, then snatched him midair and delivered a brutal RKO through the announcer's table. The arena exploded. The crowd went insane. And the internet couldn't believe what it had just seen. It left him sore for days. But the internet exploded with millions of views across platforms. And even people who didn't know who Speed was before suddenly had to find out. That moment did something rare. It bridged two worlds. It was WWE scripted chaos and streamer spontaneity clashing in the most unexpected way. And more than anything, it proved that Speed wasn't just an internet guy anymore. He was a mainstream spectacle, walking into one of the biggest live events in the world and stealing the spotlight. But if you thought that was wild, just wait, because in the next moment, Speed's lips would take center stage in a way no one asked for. Lip challenge gone too far. There's a fine line between content and catastrophe, and IShowSpeed doesn't just cross it. He sprints past it with a grin on his face. Back in September 2022, during what seemed like a chill, random stream, Speed stumbled into one of the most bizarre and downright painful-looking viral moments of his entire career. The setup? Simple. He decided to try the infamous Kylie Jenner lip challenge. You know, that weird internet trend where people use a suction cup to make their lips puff up like balloons. Most people give it a shot for a few seconds, laugh it off, and move on. But Speed? Nah, he doesn't do normal. Instead of holding the cup to his lips for 10 or 15 seconds like a sane person, he left it on for 15 straight minutes. That's not a typo. 15 minutes of vacuum pressure sucking at his face like a demon trying to escape from his mouth. And then, when he finally pulled it off, the result was horrifying. His lips had swelled up into something not even human. He ran to the mirror, saw his own reflection, and screamed like he'd seen a ghost. His chat erupted into laughter and chaos. His chat erupted into laughter and disbelief, while Speed paced around screaming, begging the swelling to go down. Speed kept pacing, shouting, throwing himself around the room in disbelief, rubbing his face and begging the swelling to go down. But as much as it hurt and as ridiculous as it looked, it was pure viral fuel. The moment exploded across social media within hours. Memes popped up left and right. People edited his face onto cartoon characters, emojis, even fish. One tweet simply read, "Speed just unlocked a new species." And the video itself? It's now sitting at over 29 million views and counting. It's one of those clips that lives rent-free in viewers' heads because it's not just about someone doing a dumb internet challenge. It's about Speed going way too far, reacting like a cartoon character, and somehow turning every injury and disaster into a performance that the internet cannot look away from. And the best part? He still didn't learn his lesson because his next stunt involved something even crazier: jumping over two speeding cars. Yeah, that happened too. Death-defying car jump. At some point, IShowSpeed stopped being just a streamer and became something else entirely. A daredevil, a spectacle, the kind of guy who doesn't just chase clout. He tackles it head-on like it owes him money. And nothing proved that more than what he attempted and somehow pulled off. In August 2024, jumping over two speeding supercars live on stream, not in a game, not in a simulation, in real life, on a street with actual cars. It was one of those moments where viewers didn't even know if they were watching a live stream or a death wish. As the broadcast went live, Speed stood shirtless in a closed-off lane, bouncing up and down like a fighter about to enter the ring. He kept yelling into the mic, hyping himself up, surrounded by a small crowd of stunned onlookers. Two supercars, a McLaren and a Lamborghini, revved their engines in the background, and chat went into full panic mode. Two supercars revved their engines. Chat panicked. The cars flew forward, and Speed leaped over both, landing perfectly. The internet exploded, calling it reckless and legendary. The tension was unreal. The cars lined up. The engines roared. Speed took a deep breath, backed up a few steps, and then go time. The cars came flying down the street, perfectly timed just a few feet apart. And in a single, heart-stopping moment, Speed sprinted forward and leaped into the air. Cameras captured it from every angle. Time seemed to freeze as his body arced perfectly above the first car, and then the second, and then landed it. Clean. No stumble, no hit. Just a flawless landing and a scream that probably shook the sky. The internet exploded. Clips went viral instantly, with fans calling it reckless and legendary. And while most influencers were busy unboxing PR packages or reacting to memes, Speed was out there defying gravity like a man possessed. It wasn't about clicks. It wasn't even about views at that point. It was about legend status. He became a walking internet myth, and people started wondering, what the hell is he going to do next? Turns out, what came next was less about danger and more about heart, because the very next moment in his viral journey was the one he waited for his whole life: meeting his hero, Cristiano Ronaldo. Meeting Cristiano Ronaldo. For all the chaos, stunts, and unfiltered madness that define IShowSpeed, there's always been one thing that grounds him: a passion so pure it cuts through all the screaming. His obsession with Cristiano Ronaldo. Speed spent years manifesting the moment he'd meet his idol, Cristiano Ronaldo. On June 17, 2023, thanks to Rafael Leão, it finally happened. That dream finally came true on June 17, 2023, after Portugal's international match against Bosnia. But it wasn't just luck or coincidence. It took the help of Ronaldo's teammate Rafael Leão, who saw Speed's obsession and decided to make it happen. And after the final whistle, somewhere behind the scenes of the stadium, Speed walked into a room and found himself standing in front of Cristiano Ronaldo. The moment was surreal, and Speed broke. Not in a performative way, not for the stream. You could see it in his eyes, in the way his body froze. The chaos stopped. Speed froze, speechless, and burst into tears. And Ronaldo. He smiled, walked over, and gave Speed a hug that sent the internet into meltdown. The clip of their handshake and hug now sits at over 23 million views. But the real magic wasn't in the number. It was in how genuine it felt. For once, Speed wasn't the loudest guy in the room. He was just a fan. Humbled, overwhelmed, and grateful. That video instantly became one of the most shared moments of 2023. Reactions poured in from fans, footballers, even news outlets. Everyone had the same takeaway. Speed might be wild, reckless, and completely unfiltered, but in that moment, he was all of us. A dreamer who actually got there. And while that moment touched hearts around the world, the very next thing he did was the complete opposite. Because not long after, Speed found himself flashing 25,000 people live on stream. That one time, he flashed 25,000 people. There's a reason no one watches an IShowSpeed stream casually, because at any given moment, literally anything can happen. And in August 2023, while thousands of viewers tuned in expecting just another chaotic gaming session, they instead witnessed a moment so shocking, so unfiltered, that the internet exploded in disbelief. It all happened during a live playthrough of Five Nights at Freddy's, a horror game known for its creepy vibes and brutal jump scares. Speed had his face cam on, headset locked in, and chat buzzing with anticipation. But nobody, not even Speed himself, could have predicted what was about to go down. As the tension in the game built up, Speed became more and more animated, yelling at the screen, throwing his body back in fear. Classic Speed behavior. And then it happened. The character Chica lunged at him with a sudden jump scare. And in that exact millisecond of panic, Speed jumped up from his chair and accidentally exposed himself to over 25,000 live viewers. Not metaphorically, not a prank. Literally exposed himself on stream. It was one of those moments where the entire chat went from LMAO to bro turn off the stream in seconds. Clip channels didn't even know how to handle it. Twitter absolutely detonated. IShowSpeed trended globally, and within minutes, screenshots were spreading like wildfire. The memes, ruthless. The reactions, even worse. Speed, realizing what just happened, ended the stream in a panic. And when he returned later, the usually loud, over-the-top personality was noticeably shaken. He called the moment the worst mistake of his life, admitting he had no clue how it happened or how many people saw it live. The clip was scrubbed from his YouTube, but by then, it was already immortalized on the internet, and yet somehow, it made him even more viral. As crazy as it sounds, fans rallied behind him, not to mock, but because it was peak Speed, unpredictable, raw, and totally unscripted. In a world full of overly curated influencer content, this was the complete opposite. It was horrifying, hilarious, and oddly human all at once. But just when you thought things couldn't get more outlandish, Speed one-upped himself again. Because a few months later, he entered the Royal Rumble. Like, for real. Royal Rumble madness. By now, everyone knew that IShowSpeed was capable of going viral in his sleep. But in February 2025, he didn't just make headlines, he entered the Royal Rumble. From FIFA menus to the WWE stage, Speed was now an official competitor. The twist? He wasn't even supposed to be there. At the last minute, wrestler Akira Tozawa got injured, and Speed, who was backstage filming content, was called in as a replacement. Most streamers would have laughed and declined, not Speed. The moment they handed him the gear, he suited up, marched down the ramp with the crowd screaming his name, and slid into the ring like he'd been waiting for this his whole life. And to everyone's surprise, he actually held his own. In one of the wildest team-ups of the night, Speed joined forces with Braun Breaker, and the two of them managed to eliminate the powerhouse Otis. For a few seconds, it looked like Speed might actually make a serious run. But of course, nothing in the WWE, or in Speed's world, stays wholesome for long. Right after the elimination, Breaker turned on him with zero warning. One glance, one step back, and boom! A devastating spear that nearly split Speed in half. He flew across the ring like he'd been hit by a truck, crashing into the ropes, gasping for air. And just like that, Speed was eliminated, tossed out of the ring like a rag doll, lying in disbelief on the floor while fans chanted his name. But here's the crazy part. Nobody was mad. Not a single fan complained that he was just a streamer. In fact, his performance became one of the most talked about parts of the entire event. Clips of his spear and elimination were plastered all over YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. Some fans even said it was one of the most entertaining Rumble moments they'd seen in years. Because with Speed, it's not about being the strongest or the most trained. It's about creating a moment. And this was one of his biggest ever. A chaotic blend of surprise, betrayal, and full speed energy. Literally. But if the Royal Rumble was his most physical redemption arc, the one that followed was emotional. Because just 1 month later, Speed would rewrite history on the football pitch and finally conquer the one thing that had haunted him for years. The penalty kick. From failure to redemption. If there's one storyline that followed IShowSpeed almost like a curse throughout his rise to internet stardom, it was his ongoing beef with the penalty kick. Ever since he first picked up a ball on stream, Speed had one goal: score in a real match. And for the longest time, it just wouldn't happen. Whether it was slipping, skying it over the crossbar, or getting blocked by the keeper, every miss was more painful than the last. But it was September 2023 during the Sidemen charity match that his penalty fail truly went viral, for all the wrong reasons. With thousands in the stadium and millions watching online, Speed had the chance to end his drought. A perfect setup. Everyone held their breath. He ran up and completely whiffed it. The ball trickled into the hands of KSY, who not only saved it effortlessly, but celebrated in front of him with the loudest "Siuuu" ever delivered by a British man. The internet had a field day. Memes, montages, edits with clown music. For months, Speed couldn't escape it. But then came March 8th, 2025. The Sidemen Charity Match 2025. Another chant, another penalty. This time the stakes were even higher. It was the final penalty of a 9-9 draw. The shootout was tied. One goal would win the game. One moment, one ball, one Speed. The entire stadium went silent. Cameras zoomed in, chat froze, and Speed took a deep breath, stepped forward, and buried it. Bottom corner, past the keeper, game over. His team wins. The crowd erupts. Teammates tackled him in celebration. Fireworks blasted into the sky. And Speed, screaming at the top of his lungs, ran to the camera yelling, "I finally did it!" The internet flipped. And that's what makes IShowSpeed more than just a meme machine or viral stuntman. Underneath the chaos, there's someone who never stops. Whether it's on a football pitch, a wrestling ring, or a streaming room full of fireworks, he keeps showing up again and again, failing, screaming, bouncing back, and somehow turning everything into content the world can't stop watching. But here's the thing, with Speed, the story is never really over, because every time you think you've seen the craziest moment, he tops it. So the real question is, what the hell is he gonna do next? The the most viral football song ever. Before he met Ronaldo, before the penalty redemption, before even jumping over speeding cars, IShowSpeed had already created one of the most unexpectedly iconic moments in football culture. And he did it not with a goal, not with a trick shot, but with a song. Yep, a football anthem. In November 2022, just ahead of the FIFA World Cup in Qatar, Speed dropped a track that was so ridiculous, so chaotic, and so catchy that it practically hijacked the internet. The name, just 3 words: World Cup Song. Now, let's be clear. Speed isn't a singer. He's not a rapper. He's not even trying to be. But somehow, when he got in front of a mic and started screaming, World Cup, World Cup, World Cup, with a beat that sounded like a stadium anthem filtered through caffeine and chaos, the result was instant virality. What started as a goofy tribute to his love for football, and Ronaldo ended up becoming his second most viewed video ever, currently sitting at a mind-melting 173 million plus views. The magic wasn't the lyrics. It was pure Speed energy. His ridiculous World Cup song captured the global spirit better than billion-dollar campaigns. It went beyond YouTube, into memes, matches, and chants worldwide. That song, in its own chaotic way, captured the global spirit of the World Cup better than some billion-dollar campaigns. It was a moment where the world collectively said, this guy, he's insane. And we love it. And if you think a viral song is the peak, just wait. Because if Speed ever drops an album, we might need a part 10 for that, too. One thing is always true. When IShowSpeed goes live, the world watches. And as viral as his past has been, the future might be even crazier. So if you thought you've seen it all, trust me, you haven't. Hit that like and subscribe button, because with Speed, the next moment might just break the internet.